It might be cold outside, but the league table is well and truly hotting up, isn't it? The Imps were ice cool at the KCOM last Tuesday, but can they do it again? It's Hull City versus Lincoln City on Matchday Live. Hello there, good evening and welcome to Matchday Live. Lincoln City facing Hull for the second time in a week, having not played them previously since all the way back in 2004. And what a show we've got lined up for you this evening as well. We'll be looking back on that brilliant win against Gillingham on Friday night live on Sky Sports. And we'll be speaking with Clive Nates and former Lincoln City player Sam Clucas as well. All that to come and the team news for you live right bang on 6 o'clock this evening. Let's get straight to it then and bring Gary Hutchinson into the fold. Gary, great to see you. Nervous or excited this evening?
I'm a little nervous, actually. Last week really got to me. I think it was a really exciting game. I was a bag of nerves by the end of it, and I feel the same. I don't think there's a lot of pressure on us tonight, to be honest. But it's a big game. Hull was always a local derby for a lot of fans of a certain age, so really exciting.
Now, regular Matchday Live viewers will certainly know that Gary Hutchinson is having an absolute stormer when it comes to his pre-match predictions. We normally save them for the end of the show. I've been having a read of his pre-match predictions on the stacywest.net, and he has this one down as a 0-0. Gary, tell us why.
Well, we don't concede very many goals on our travels, as I think people know. Hull don't concede an awful lot at home either. I think with the sticky pitch, I think goals will be at a premium, and I think it's just got 0-0 written all over it. How many have we had this season? 1, 2, perhaps, maybe that's it. I don't think that'd be a bad result all in either.
Let's have a look at the league table then, Gary, because why not? We're top of it. We know what a win would do for the Imps this evening. What would a loss do for Hull, would you say?
I think it would be a real blow for them. I mean, obviously, it would open up a handsome gap between us and them, plus with a game in hand as well. So it would put us in a very good position. Much would depend on the other results. The results that Doncaster, Peterborough, Portsmouth. I think Portsmouth are at home to Swindon this evening. I think Doncaster are travel as well. So both of those likely to pick up points. I suppose a defeat's only bad if your rivals are winning games, but it would certainly make a big statement of intent for us and put real clear daylight between us.
Yeah, certainly so. It makes for good reading, doesn't it? Let's have a look back then on that win against Gillingham. Steve Evans' Gillingham on Friday night. Gary, in terms of the performance, where would you say this one ranks amongst what has been an extremely good season so far?
I think it was a very good performance. I think it was a very good Gillingham side. I'm not going to take anything away from them at all. They do what they do very well. They weren't as direct as I felt they might be, but we did have to put up with a degree of bombardment, balls into the boxes, perhaps rather than balls sort of just from back to front quick. But when we looked good, we were really good. I mean, this was probably our best move of the first half, one of our only fluent moves of the first half, and we were so clinical when those chances presented themselves. We saw two sides of Lincoln City, and both of them I liked a lot.
Yeah, we'll analyse the goals properly shortly. The game as a whole, Gary, was in danger of getting a little bit physical from the home side's point of view, wasn't it? But we had to keep our heads, and we did.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually we started that in the first minute or so. There was a challenge from Grant on Slattery, I think, which was a tough one. So we weren't going to be intimidated. Last year we were intimidated there. We went there, we were bullied. They took the lead. We never looked like getting back into the game. But this is a different Lincoln City. We are strong. We won't be intimidated, and we do have players that will ride those tougher challenges as well. So I think we gave as good as we got in the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is some move, isn't it? You know, I said we're going to analyse the goal shortly, but what a touch that is. The confidence from such a young player to do what he did there, you're almost wishing that it went in. But, you know, the question I was going to ask, which I'll put to you now, is there a better sight in football at the moment than seeing Tom Hopper run away like that with his arm in the air?
No, absolutely not. I don't think there's a better sight in football than Lincoln City attacking, certainly not in League One. As I said a minute ago, when we're good, we are very, very good. We've got such talented players in wide areas. Tom Hopper's a workhorse in the middle. He makes a good target man. But even from in front of the defence onwards, we've just got players that I think the youth of today describe as ballers. And we're all the better for it.
You describe them as ballers, Gary. Don't give me the youth of today. We saw George Grant tweeting after the game as well, pulling the referee up on that decision, because quite clearly it was onside. And that's what we like to see from our players, wanting goals, gutted that he didn't get that one, despite the fact that we had 3 points in the bag.
Yeah, again, I think it's a positive, even his reaction to being called offside. He screamed no as loud as he could. Obviously angry, even though we're 3-0 up and the game's won. I think when it comes to decisions, perhaps it's better sometimes if players don't get involved. I know there was some anger on the opposition side at one or two of the decisions as well, which obviously I don't think we're going to analyse here. But in football, decisions go your way, some don't go your way. But it's better when they don't go your way in the last minute of a game that you're already winning 3-0.
Let's have a look back at that Conor McGrandles goal then. Gary, we've analysed Conor a fair bit over the last few weeks. We spoke to him about 3 months ago on Matchday Live. He said he wants more goals, he wants more assists, he wants to be getting in the box as much as he possibly can. And we're seeing the fruits of that particular labour, really, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. He just hung his run there as well. It was really clever. He just hung back a little bit, and you kind of see him just coming into the picture there. So he goes across there, he just pauses slightly, penalty spot, so that he can stride onto the ball and get a bit of power behind it. And I think earlier in the season we actually saw him making the runs but arriving as the ball did, and sometimes it's a little bit more unpredictable. You can't steady yourself, and also when you've got the quality out wide, I think that with that sort of delivery you need one or two options. And you looked, Tom Hopper gambled, and Conor McGrandles didn't. And from the left we look very, very creative, especially now that we've got a kind of a fast wide player in Morgan Rogers, so that George Grant isn't the one having to always make the run into the channel.
And speaking of George Grant, I feel like it's been a big week for George because of what happened against Doncaster and the fact that he's been given 2 opportunities to put those penalties to bed. He's clearly done that with 2 big moments. Obviously, we're seeing the penalty here. We know what Brennan is capable of. He draws the foul in there. And, it takes a lot of steel, doesn't it, to be able to step up when the nation are watching, knowing just how big a moment that could be and putting it away.
Yeah, it does. It reminded me a little bit of Stuart Pearce in the Euro 96 game against Spain, where, he'd had a penalty miss weighing heavily on him. Okay, Stuart Pearce had it weighing on him for 6 years rather than a week. But it's the same sort of strength of character. George could have shied away. Michael could have taken him off penalties. Remember, he'd missed a couple in the league before scoring in the penalty shootout. And whilst there is pressure in the penalty shootout, and it was great to see him score and it showed great character, to then go and do it again in a game so quickly afterwards with such an emphatic penalty as well, I think that just shows the type of character that George Grant has become over the last 18 months.
We've spoken about that third goal a little bit, but let's just play it in again, because any excuse to see it. What a touch this is from Morgan Rogers. I mean, this is why he's brought in. He's got obviously been brought in from a Premier League club. There he's showing Premier League class. Yeah,
that's why Manchester City paid £4 million for him. Tom Hopper has to be there to score. He has to do what a striker does. Tom Hopper's very much a Gary Lineker style striker. He'll pop up in the 6-yard box and toe poke one in. But, you've got to get the ball in there. That is just brilliant. The fullback doesn't know then whether he's almost committed. Then he's got to step back. So he's kind of thrown the fullback a little bit. But even there, just that little move, it's quality. And we need to get him and Brennan Johnson into those channels running at defenders, because there is not a fullback or a central defender in this division that won't be terrified by that pair when they're on form.
Great stuff, Gary. So that is what happened against Gillingham. Let's rewind back to 7 days ago then and see what happened when the Imps played Hull in the EFL Trophy. This is the best of the action. Yuck by the Vigilantes, the song of choice there. And the pitch was a little bit yuck as well, wasn't it, Gary? That's going to be the talking point ahead of tonight's game. We can actually see footage of the pitch now. So it looks in a lot better state a week later, ironically, considering the amount of snow we've had over the last week or so, Gary. But this is the current state of play.
Yeah, I think with snow, if you can get it cleared rather than stand in water, you probably stand a bit more of a chance of putting the pitch in better condition. It wasn't great last week. I know during the game there was a lot of social media calls saying or suggesting that it might be called off. Didn't ever think we'd lose today's game. I think if you lose a game through snow now, it's usually safety of spectators rather than quality of the pitch. And they've obviously got the lights on there as well in the goal mouth, helping to dry those out. So hopefully a better pitch will be a bit more conducive to passing football. I know Michael said in midweek, and we may go a little bit quicker from the back four into the midfield than we normally would. But this pitch is ideal for us. It looks like a big pitch. There's plenty of space to move the ball around in. So if the surface is anything like, hopefully we can put a good account of ourselves.
Yeah, despite the pitch, we played some brilliant stuff, particularly in the first half. It was almost as if Hull was slightly taken aback. It was almost, not that they hadn't seen us play at all season, but it did take them, didn't it, a good half or so to sort of get used to the pace of play from Michael Appleton's side.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's one of the reasons we've got a relatively good away form as well, is because when we go away, we play the same sort of football as when we're at home. Now, whether that's because there's no supporters in the stadium and we're able to play the same game either way we go, but we tend to break at pace. Portsmouth, when they were coming on to us, we still played the passing game. We still got forward very quickly. And I think teams sometimes maybe expect us to sit back and soak up pressure, hence our good defensive record. But that's not the case. A lot of the time we tend to defend from the front. We always play the same thing. We're top of the league for a reason. What we do well, and it works for us. So Hull won't be they won't be in the dark about what sort of threat that we bring. But what they've got to do is find a way to beat us as well as stopping us play. And I think that'll be a big ask for them.
Team news with you in around about 30 seconds time. In the meantime, Gary, I'll just ask you in terms of the Hull City team, missing some key players, aren't they? They were missing some key players against us this time last week, but it would seem that some of their key men won't be involved this evening.
No, Richie Smallwood, I think, is out. He was injured at the weekend. So I think Tom Eaves is out as well. He's a really dangerous striker, did really well for Gillingham. Gavin White, who moved from Oxford to Cardiff for a rumoured $4 million, he's on loan. He's out as well. But they've got a squad that's superb. They've got some really good players, championship players. George Honeyman's been with Sunderland since he was a kid, and he moved to Hull, played in the championship last year. Malik Wilkes, we didn't see last week. He's likely to play. And I think the fullback Max Clark might be wrong, but he's just come from Vitesse Arnhem. He was a Hull youngster and left for the Dutch top flight, so he could be involved as well. So they've got a couple of injuries, but they've got the squad to cover it, as have we these days.
We showed you pictures, didn't we, of the KCOM Stadium? We showed you them just about 30 seconds ago. They were from about 5 minutes ago. Since then, Storm Darcy has well and truly hit the KCOM. The snow is falling. Hopefully, we'll be able to show you some pictures of that very shortly. In the meantime, it is 6 o'clock, which means one thing and one thing only. It's time for today's Lincoln City team news. And the news is that Michael Appleton sticks with that side that beat Gillingham on Friday. He's unchanged from it. Alex Palmer in goal. TJ Ioma is in the squad despite having injury concerns. He's fine and fit to play. Adam Jackson and Joe Walsh as well. Teo Eden keeps his place at left back. It is then Liam Bridcut, Conor McGrandles, George Grant, Morgan Rogers, Brennan Johnson and Tom Hopper. The bench is identical to what it was on Friday as well. Long, Poole, Monsma, Jones, Scully, Bramall, and Anderson. So that is your Lincoln City starting 11. Gary, he's stuck with the same side. Are you surprised?
I am a little bit. I think when you play Saturday, Tuesday, there's a lot of pressure on some of the players. So it does surprise me perhaps that Lewis Monsma hasn't got a start. But then one of Michael's philosophies is if a player is playing well, then he doesn't lose his place. And he loses his place through injury, or if he loses his place through poor form, then he's got to fight to get back into the side. You can see that on the bench. And Monsma and Jones were out through injury, as was Anderson, and they haven't come straight back in. So it shows a certain trust in the players. The players will know that if they perform well, they don't lose their place. So I can understand why he hasn't changed it, but from a fitness point of view, it does surprise me a little.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a strong bench, isn't it, Gary? You look at that. I mean, Sam Long in goal, and then you've got Regan Poole, who's come in highly rated right back. Lewis Monsma, we know what he's capable of. Jones, Scully, Bramall, Anderson. It speaks for itself, doesn't it? At this point in the season, a pivotal time where games are coming thick and fast, with everything that the club and the squad have had to deal with, it's great to see such a strong squad, isn't it?
It is. I mean, you look at that bench and you think Theo Archibald, Remy Howarth, Max Sanders, Sean Rowan kind of all sat out watching Callum Morton coming back into the side soon as well. So from last Tuesday, when we went with 4 substitutes, one of them a goalkeeper and 2 of them defenders, to we've virtually got a second 11 now sat waiting in the wings, which is fantastic. It also means that we can make changes if we need to at key times. So it gives Michael plenty of tactical options as well. And I mean, as we've said, Lewis Monsma, James Jones, Anthony Scully, Harry Anderson, all been starters at some point this season. Regan Poole and Cohen Bramall likely to be starters next season, whatever division we're in. It's a strong bench. All good teams have really strong squads, not just a core 11 or 12.
No Monsma in the starting 11, Gary. I guess the obvious question is, what has he got to do to get back into it? Or is it a case of just waiting until Adam Jackson or Joe Walsh pick up an injury?
I think there's a degree of waiting because I think, again, Michael shows loyalty to his players. So Adam Jackson and Joe Walsh were superb against Gillingham, absolutely superb. And it would be unfair to drop either of those on the back of the form that they've showed. If one of them picks up an injury, Lewis Monsma gets in. Let's not forget we've got that EFL Trophy semi-final coming up, which almost certainly will see squad rotation. I think if Monsma comes in then, has a great game, scores a goal, he gives Michael serious questions to answer. But I really like the loyalty that Michael shows to his players. I really like the fact that if a player gets into the side and shows that he's good, he's not then dropped, he's not kind of given a slap in the face almost. And I think that probably speaks to a mutual respect between manager and players, which again, successful teams all have.
We said we'd bring you pictures of Storm Darcy hitting the KCOM Stadium. This is a video that was taken around about a minute or so ago. Let's have a look. Tell you what, Gary, it's amazing how quickly things change, isn't it?
Isn't it? Just looking at that as well, it's a magnificent ground. I didn't go to the KCOM. I've been to the old Boothbury Park, which was a little bit different. But how far Hull City have come is phenomenal since we last played them over the last sort of 10, 15 years or so. It's a lovely stadium. But again, I mean, the players must be busting to get out there and show what they can do.
Absolutely. And one man who has played regularly at the KCOM Stadium over the years as well, I'm delighted to say, joins us live on the show now, former Imp as well, Sam Clucas. Sam, lovely to see you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Just admiring, admiring the stadium there, but B, looking at the conditions. Give us an idea. Did you enjoy playing in those snowy conditions?
More the rain, to be honest with you. Not necessarily the snow. It's a bit too cold. I enjoy playing in the rain when it's nice and slippery on the surface. But the snow, especially as it's bad as I've just seen on that picture there, sometimes it's hard to see. And it's funny saying that, but we had a game not long ago. I think it was against Bournemouth on telly where the conditions were like that, and it was so hard to see the opposition and the ball and stuff like that. It's not great conditions to be playing in, to be honest with you.
You have to get the old orange ball out, I think. It's been a while since you've been with us, Sam. I presume you've been following the Imps from afar. You were at Wembley, weren't you, for the EFL Trophy final a couple of years ago, I believe?
Yeah, I was there watching. I'm still a Lincoln boy. All my family and friends still all live in Lincoln. I get back to Lincoln as much as I can. And like you said there, I always look out for the results. I watch the games on telly. I've seen the Gillingham game the other night. And it's brilliant to see how far they've come and how well they're doing this season. And I think I'm like most Lincoln fans. I've got my fingers and toes crossed that they can get over the line and get the club into the Championship, because what an achievement that'll be.
Hi, Sam. As a fellow pro, you said you watched the Gillingham game there. What really impressed you about the Lincoln City performance on Friday night?
Well, I've seen a lot of results and I've seen they've been playing well and scoring lots of goals. But I've been hearing all the interviews that pundits have been doing and how well they've been playing. And obviously, I've not really seen too many of the games, to be honest with you. But watching that Gillingham game on telly, you could see the way they play. They're not only picking up results, they're playing really nice football, and that's great to see. And that's what the fans like to see as well. Not only just playing long ball and getting results, they're playing football, and they've got a really exciting squad there. I like the look of the the front four, really. The two wingers, you've got Grant that I played against in the past. It's a really good player. Hopper, the striker, and obviously the two lads that are coming on loan that play on the wings. It's a really exciting squad. You mix in that youth and energy with the experience they've got in the likes of Bridcut and players like that, and it's a really exciting time for Lincoln. And like I say, if all they need to do is keep concentrating on the games coming up, and hopefully they can get over the line and get into the championship. It would just be unfortunate if it's not a full stadium at Sincil Bank to see that, to be honest with you.
Sam, tell us a little bit about your time at Hull then. Of course, you enjoyed some memorable games in the Premier League. I mean, I remember you being man of the match away at Manchester United at Old Trafford in front of 80,000 people. Some great days, and I'm sure you've still got many great days ahead of you as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I'm not too old. I've only just turned 30, so there's not too many years left, but there's enough. But yeah, no, I love my time there. I've always said that I've got a great affection for that club because they took me from a League One team where I was playing at Chesterfield. They took a chance on me with Steve Bruce at the time. I played a lot of football in the Championship, which, to be honest with you, I never thought I'd even get to play in the Championship. And then to get to Wembley and win the playoff final and get to the Premier League, it's something that I'd always dreamed of, and a feeling that I would never be able to explain to anybody, you know, from my background and how hard it was to get there. And just to be playing week in, week out in the Premier League against players that I only play against on FIFA, on computer games, it was a dream come true. And I used to pinch myself every game. And like I say, when I'm playing as a Man United fan as well, when you're playing at Old Trafford, I've been to watch many games there with my family, and when you're out on that pitch, it's just such a surreal feeling. And to have that, I'm just eternally grateful for Hull, really, for giving me that opportunity. So they're definitely a club that I always keep an eye on the results, and I've always got an affection for.
In terms of Lincoln, Sam, you mentioned there that we know that your family are all from the area. What have you made of the transformation of the club, you know, over the past 5, 6, 7 years? It's been quite something, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, and it's going in the right direction. I always thought it was a difficult when I was there for that one season. It was a great club, great setup. They obviously had a lot of local lads that were playing, the likes of Andy Hutchinson, Kern Miller who played the season, Nathan Adams, all local lads, which is brilliant to see for the fans that really care about the club. And they had a great training ground. Like I said, the stadium's always been brilliant to play in. But then after that season, when it started going downhill a little bit, and they got rid of the training ground, the training ground's a massive pull for me. I think when you're trying to sign players and get players into the club, if you can show them around a really good training ground at lower league level, can sometimes get the deal over the line. So now they've got a training ground again, which is brilliant. I've been to see that, and they've got all that set up there. And I spoke to a couple of people that work at the club, and they're saying how well the manager's doing and how he's brought sports science and stuff like that into the club. It's really good to see, and I think that's showing on the pitch, and well, it certainly is showing on the pitch with them being top of the table.
It's really interesting what you say about the training ground, Sam. From a player's perspective, the idea that, you know, you go to a club, you see what it's about. I guess all League One, League Two, Championship clubs, they're trying to sell a vision, aren't they? And you go to a club that has a top of the range training ground like this club now has. It just makes such a difference.
Yeah, 100%. It just shows the intent that the club want to progress and be better. And if you can show that to a player, like I say, they turn up and they see the training ground, a brand new training ground, nice pitches, nice gym, all of that. Whereas if you're turning up at the stadium to sign, and the player asks, where do you train? And they say, we train on the 3G, or we train at a couple of local schools. You know, it's not quite got the same pull. So yeah, the training ground's massive, and like I say, it just shows a massive intent for the club, where the club want to go and progress forward, and they're going to need that, certainly, if they're going to get into the Championship, like we all hope they do. As
a player, Sam, how have you coped with the events of the last year, the pandemic, from a footballer's point of view?
Yeah, it's been crazy, to be honest with you. It's been a crazy time for everyone, but footballers as well. Like, we've been fortunate in the most case, because we've been able to carry on working and get the time out and in the fresh air and all doing what we love. But at first it's so strange, because you go from playing in front of full crowds, and you have that atmosphere and you have that buzz around match days and getting up for games, to turning up to games, especially last year when we was in a relegation battle with Stoke, and we're going into games where we really need the crowd behind us to get us over the line and get us the 3 points. And and there's nothing there. You know, it is a lot harder to get yourself motivated and get yourself up for it when them fans aren't there cheering as the whistle goes before the game. You hear the singing. It's been such strange times, and like I said, we're fortunate because being at the level we've been playing at, we've been able to carry on. We've not been furloughed, we've been paying. It's been a lot difficult for so many other people in so many other industries. So like I say, we're very lucky in the industry we're in, and we don't take that for granted. And all we can do is just carry on, and hopefully soon, for the sake of football and all the finances and all that, we can get the fans back in. And like I say, it's a shame that the fans won't be able to see, looking at it at the minute, they won't be able to see if Lincoln could get promoted. They just won't be there to see it over the line.
I'll bring Gary Hutchinson into the fold as well. Gary, I tell you what, Sam's got a career in punditry after he hangs up his boots, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think I'll have my P45 in now, Sam, to be fair. Can you come on every week, Sam, can you?
Sam, how do you see tonight's game going?
It's going to be a tough game. I think the game last week in the Cup was massive. Lincoln obviously getting the victory there on penalties. I think it's always nice when you're playing a team that's so high, your rivals in your league, and you get to play them a week before and you already won. You know, it gives you that extra bit of confidence going into this game tonight. Hull are obviously at home. You've seen the conditions, which might play a part as well. Hull are trying desperately to get back in the Championship. They're a massive club, and they'll feel like they've got a right to get back in the Championship. So it's going to be a tough game. Looking forward to it, to be honest with you. But the form that Lincoln have been on, they're going to go in there and they're not going to fear anybody. And like I said, beating them last week is going to be an extra incentive as well. It's going to be a good game, and I'm hoping, even though I'm a big fan of Hull and stuff like that, I'm hoping for a Lincoln victory, to be honest with you, because to see Lincoln in the Championship would be massive for me. And hopefully, if I'm still playing in the Championship, it'd be nice to get to have a game back there as well.
And maybe one day, Sam, maybe we might see you in a Lincoln shirt once again. I mean, the comments are come flying in about having you on a Matchday Live, and plenty of them are saying, look, is there a chance one day that we might see Sam Clucas in a Lincoln City shirt? It would be brilliant from a Lincoln point of view.
Hopefully the shirt fits a bit better than that one I've got on there. But no, I've always said since leaving Lincoln, that was one of my biggest regrets, you know, not getting a real opportunity at my hometown club. I still say to this day, I remember the day that Peter Jackson pulled me in and offered me the 1 year deal. I remember walking home and ringing my parents and telling them how happy I was that I got a chance to play there. And they always understood that it was going to be difficult for me I never expected to break straight into the first team or anything like that with no experience behind me, to be honest with you. Just a lad come from college, a local lad. I knew I was going to have to put in the work in to try and get there. And the results weren't going too great for him to throw an unknown player like me in, to be honest with you. So I always understood that. Obviously got the one game in the Cup. I think it's away at Darlington. And then unfortunately the manager got sacked, and with that comes a new manager, new ideas, and sometimes you just don't fit into the plans, you know. So that's always one that I've looked back at and thought I'd love to have played more games and played at Sincil Bank in front of my friends and family. I've played there, but I've played for an opposition team at Hereford. So yeah, I've definitely got unfinished business there, and it's football. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, and we'll see what happens.
Sam, it's been an absolute joy having you on. Really do appreciate it. Enjoy the game, and good luck for the rest of the season as well.
Thanks for having me on. Thank you very much.
Lots of Sam Clucas, as I said before, he's going to make quite the pundit when he eventually retires, no doubt about that. Okay, let's get the thoughts of Michael Appleton then. This was his pre-match press conference from yesterday.
First off, did everybody get through from Friday all right?
Yeah, reasonably well. Obviously, bit of a physical game. Difficult game, but I thought the players handled it really well, and we seemed to come through it okay.
Just the 20-odd hours difference, obviously, between your finishing and Hull finishing on Saturday. Will it make any difference at all?
Who knows, Rob? I think, obviously, time will tell. Hopefully, maybe in the last 20, 25 minutes or so of the game, hopefully at that point we're in the game or ahead or, close enough to do something that we can use that as an advantage. But, there's always that sort of risk having to play on the Friday. So obviously we, playing them on the Tuesday and then the turnaround to the Friday game is obviously shorter for us. But the added bonus was that we knew they'd get a little bit extra before we played them again this week. So let's see. And we try to look after the players as best we possibly can.
we've seen from your side this year, and whoever you play in the trophy, you play in a similar style compared to what you play in the league. Are you expecting the same with Hull tomorrow?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, I think one thing for sure, obviously, that there'll be a disappointment regarding their, results at the weekend against a much improved Burton side, the signings that Jimmy's brought in. But I think that, they're probably going to get a reaction. We need to be aware of that. I don't see them changing massively in terms of where they play and the style. So, listen, the pitch might have a little bit of effect on it. Obviously, it was a difficult one last week. Weather, obviously, in this part of the country's getting hit at the minute. So, yeah, let's see what's waiting for us.
Yeah, Michael Appleton speaking to BBC Radio Lincolnshire's Rob Makepeace there. Let me just bring you tonight's team news then. And the manager, who you heard of there, has kept his side that he played against Gillingham. Alex Palmer's in goal, TJ Omer, Adam Jackson, Joe Walsh, Tayo Eden, Liam Bridcut, Conor McGrandles and George Grant make up the midfield. It is then an unchanged front three as well. Morgan Rogers, Brennan Johnson and Tom Hopper. Long, Poole, Monsma, Jones, Scully, Bramall and Anderson. That is your Lincoln City starting 11 to face Hull City this evening. Already spoken to one brilliant guest this evening, haven't we, in the shape of Sam Clucas. Great to hear the thoughts of Sam, of course, a former Imp and former Hull City player as well. Got another brilliant guest lined up for you right now. Chairman Clive Nates joins us. Clive, lovely to see you. How are you?
Yeah, hi Sam. All well, thank you.
Great stuff. Great to hear the thoughts of Sam Clucas there as well. Speak so candidly, really, and so openly about his time at Lincoln.
Yeah, I thought you'd get me on while he was there so I could look at negotiate a deal for maybe end of next year when his contract ends.
You tell me that now. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Clive, let's get to some political stuff first, because there's been some interesting news today in the form of that, I should say, of the FL, and they're going back on what they said in terms of the League One and League Two salary caps. So what happened back in August when clubs voted for a salary cap? League Two was I believe £1.5 million. League One was £2.5 million. That is to be scrapped now. If I could just ask for your thoughts on that first.
Yeah, it's disappointing. And, I tweeted something, to the effect that it just highlights the lack of leadership in the game at the moment. It should have been done properly in the first place. There shouldn't have been this doubt over whether they could implement salary caps. And we're now back to a system that is just not fit for purpose. I mean, it was under those rules that you saw the demise of Berry, and it allows, unlimited spending on players and unlimited losses. And we've now got significant uncertainty as to what rules will be in place for next season. It affects also any renewal of contracts that we might do at the moment. So, yeah, it's just, a disappointing situation to be in.
Yeah, so that's news from the EFL perspective, Clive. From the club's perspective, some great news. Club announcing earlier this afternoon, or certainly reports anyway, that there's been further investment into the club. If you could just tell us a little bit about that. And I guess the obvious question is how much of a boost in these particular times is something like that to the club?
Yeah, well, it's been funding made available by the board to help the club through COVID. It actually came in before the end of June. So if anybody looks at the financial statements of Lincoln City Holdings, which also were released on Companies House today, you will see that amount of £800,000 is already in the accounts. It hasn't been needed up to now, but will certainly be needed to get the club through the rest of the season. So as we need those funds, they will be invested in shares in the football club.
I think Gary Hutchinson's got a question for you, Clive.
Hi, Clive. Hope you're well. Mine's a little bit less serious, to be honest. I was kind of interested how transfer deadline day looks for you, kind of over in South Africa. Was it a late one with the phone ringing?
It was a late one. And remember, we're 2 hours ahead. So I had a pretty late night and lots of phone calls from Liam, and also a number of documents to sign and then scan back to Liam. And yeah, we just made it with 2 minutes to spare. I don't want to go through that again.
So was there any worry that the Max Sanders deal might not get over the line?
Well, in South Africa, the electricity goes down from time to time. I do have a UPS, but you just never know. So we certainly got to look at areas that we can improve, to make sure that we never go as close as that again.
Clive, a couple more boring ones, then we'll get to the fun stuff, I promise. iFollow. Of course, it's been much topic of debate over the course of this season, hasn't it? But the Imps announcing earlier this week that there's been some brilliant figures in terms of iFollow in the top 6 as well in terms of the away following. Just tell us a little bit about that and how important that is to the club.
Yeah, it is important. I mean, obviously we are losing out on Matchday income, but the iFollow income does help. And it's great to see more and more of our fans actually buying iFollow passes. There's no doubt there has been an uptick, and we are now seeing record iFollow numbers. And we hope that continues with the team, hopefully having a good run into the end of the season.
And how do you find the experience of watching from afar? Are you a keep calm, feet up on the sofa sort of fan, or are you a jumping around the living room, bang your head on the ceiling supporter?
Yeah, very much the latter. Although VAR has had a bit of an influence, the only Premier League team I watch is Everton, and it just saps any emotion from you watching that sort of football. I mean, even when Everton got that late equaliser against Man United, normally the whole house would hear me, but you can't get excited anymore because you don't know if in a few minutes later that decision is going to be reversed. So it sort of has a little bit of impact on the way I celebrate for Lincoln City now, but certainly somebody that expresses his emotion.
What about the football this season then, Clive? It's been an absolute joy to watch, hasn't it? From your point of view, did you expect us to do so well this year? Was this always part of the plan? We heard Michael Appleton speaking in his pre-match press conference saying, look, you can't but rate this side as an A+ at the moment. They have exceeded expectations. Have they exceeded your expectations?
Yeah, I think I would give them a higher rating, A++, because yeah, definitely it's been, far ahead of our expectations. Obviously, we couldn't compete last season. So those players, and there were quite a number that came in January, only had a short time working under Michael, and then with all the changes in the summer, and you would have thought that it would have taken, a bit longer for the team to gel. So, really full marks to Michael and the backroom staff and all the players for, the brilliant displays that they're putting on.
Massive game tonight, isn't it, Clive? Storm Darcy has hit the KCOM Stadium. I'm going to ask you what you make of tonight's game very shortly. For those that are just joining us, these are pictures taken from the KCOM around about 20 minutes or so ago. So I'll give you an idea of the pitch and the weather conditions too. Have a look at this. So the pitch looks in slightly better shape than it did this time last week, Clive, but the weather conditions are arguably a bit tougher.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. The last thing I would hope is the game starts and doesn't finish. But yeah, obviously a very important game. Despite Hull losing to a much improved Burton team on the weekend, they're a very good side. And, even with a couple of players out, and it's going to be a very tough test for us.
Gary, I'll bring you back into the fold as well. Just looking at those conditions there, does it change the way that we set up tonight? I mean, I guess there's an argument that you could have looked at the pitch this time last week and have expected us not to play quite the sort of standard of football that we did, but actually, we kept it on the deck, we played it on the floor and played really well.
Yeah, I think there's an element of probably starting in much the same way that Michael intended to when he woke up this morning. In other words, maybe going from the back four to the midfield a little bit quicker than we do under normal circumstances. But I think that we're quite an adaptable side as well. We've got a lot of very flexible players, and we can adapt to circumstances. We showed that when we had to change our game plan at short notice against Portsmouth when they had a man sent off. And I feel that we could do that again for the conditions. As I understand it, the snow is expected to be short flurries. So personally, I don't see a lot changing. I think that the game will go ahead and draw to a conclusion as we expect it to.
Clive, I want to ask you about some of the other sides in the division. There's obviously some huge teams, and look, we touched on the salary cap thing before, didn't we? But there's some massive sides that I guess will benefit from this U-turn.
Yes, they will, but again, I think it's really too early to draw any conclusions as to what is going to happen. I mean, the window has closed, so the only thing, let's say, these bigger clubs can do is bring in players that are out of contract. But, those players that are out of contract won't be that fit. So, they might only have a limited impact on any of those teams. As to next season, it's just uncertainty. I can't imagine SCMP with all the problems around those rules will continue in its present form. And then there was also a comment that the EFL could leave the PFNCC with 3 months' notice, which would then allow salary caps, if they were voted in again by the clubs, to be re-implemented for next season. There might be other ramifications of withdrawing from that body. But again, I'm not pretty sure about that. We have an EFL meeting on Thursday for League One teams, and that will certainly be a lot more interesting than it would have been normally.
Let's just have a look at the league table then. I've just had a clock at the time there. We've only got 2 minutes left on the show, which is quite unbelievable. But Clive, in terms of other sides in this division, who do you see as Lincoln's biggest challenges for those automatic places?
Look, you would have to expect Hull City to be up there, Peterborough, Portsmouth. Charlton have played a lot of games. They've brought in a number of new players. Maybe not enough to really challenge for the top two. I don't think you can write off Sunderland. And Doncaster Rovers obviously have got a couple of games in hand and could be top of the league if they got points from those games in hand. Interesting thing about Doncaster is that they've been picking up points, but it's not exactly, from the statistics that they've been dominating those games. We know that Lincoln City had much of the play in the game that we lost. And even against Oxford, all the stats were in favour of Oxford.
Just finally, Clive, we saw a brilliant letter from yourself yesterday. Just tell us, about the sort of image, I guess, that you wanted to convey to the fans as well. So important, of course, to keep them in the loop now more than ever.
Yeah, look, I think it's not just me. It's everything that the club tries to do is to be in touch with the fans, keep them, informed. And, that's the way the club wants to operate. So this was just another part of that. And, to let the fans know what will happen with their season ticket credits. And, very shortly we will come out with an announcement as to how they're able to take advantage of the credits that they have built up.
Clive, we're out of time. I thought we had about 10 minutes left of the show, which tells you how quickly tonight's Matchday Live has gone. Really appreciate you joining us for it. I won't ask you for your score predictions like I do with Gary Hutchinson, Clive.
No, definitely not. I've been too wrong with those. I mean, I used to do it on BBC Radio Lincolnshire, but not going to do it anymore.
Clive, it's been great to see you and great to have you on. Enjoy the game.
Okay, thanks, Sam. Cheers, Gary.
Thanks, Clive. Cheers.
And Gary, I mean, it's always great to see Clive, isn't it? But it just gives some brilliant insight into the ins and outs of what's going on in the club at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. The culture of the club starts at the top, and permeates through everybody that we have there. We're a very open, transparent club. I think Kieran Maguire said we were the gold standard for financial clarity as well. So yeah, it's hard, isn't it, sometimes as a fan to fully understand and fully respect board and things like that. But I think at Lincoln City at the moment, it's so easy. We've got great people involved.
If you're a betting person and you've been following Gary Hutchinson's tips throughout the course of the season on Matchday Live, and you'd be wise to do so as well, by the way, he's gone for 0-0 this evening. So there you go. There's your tip. Gary, always great to see Gary Hutchinson on Matchday Live. We'll be back at the weekend, of course. You can get your match pass by going to www.weareimps.com/ifollow. I'm hearing the game is still set to go ahead tonight as well. We showed you pictures of the KCOM Stadium, a very snowy KCOM Stadium, but as things stand, it is still set to go ahead. So do enjoy the game, and fingers crossed the Imps can make it 6 points clear at the top between themselves and Hull City. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.